Hello and welcome to another video tutorial for tasmccarthy.com, this time on the basics of Illustrator and how you might use it for logos. The first thing to realize about Illustrator is that it works in vector instead of pixel. To show you what I mean, here is a pixel picture from Photoshop. Pixels are tiny squares that make up an image. You can see the further I zoom in, the more pixelated it becomes until you can see all of the squares that make up the image. Basically, it deteriorates the further in you go. Illustrator is built on vectors, which means instead of being made of a grid of tiny squares, all of these shapes are built mathematically. So no matter how much we zoom in, it just recalculates the shapes and sizes, and it will never lose quality, no matter how far we go. This means that Illustrator is perfect for doing things like logos, which need to be scalable up and down, maybe to a billboard size, without ever becoming pixelated. To start, you need to go to File, New, and by default it's set up as an A4 page, and all you need to really pick is your orientation, whether it's portrait or landscape. Okay, the heart of Illustrator is the ability to draw shapes very quickly and precisely. We have some inbuilt tools for this, such as a rectangle tool, ellipse tool for circles. Holding shift here will keep it a perfect circle instead of an ellipse. We've got other things like polygons and stars. Like Photoshop, we have two colors here, but it differs to Photoshop where the colors are foreground and background color. For Illustrator, we have a fill color and a stroke color, and I'll show you what each of these does. If we select our square and double click to change the color, you'll see that this solid one, the fill, is the inside color of the shape. Our other one is the stroke, which is the outline of the shape. So at the moment we have solid orange fill with a grey outline. Over on our side menus we also have more controls for stroke. You can change the thickness, you can change the style, you can make it dashed, you can do all sorts of things. But it's important to realize you can control both the fill and the outline, the stroke of each shape. Another tool you might find useful is the line tool in doing your logos. Just like anything else, you can select it and then change the stroke, both the weight, the color, anything else like that. A tool that you'll end up using a lot is the pen tool. That differs from usual tools in that you can draw whatever shape you like instead of being restricted to these ones. The basic function is to click and draw dot to dot, and when you come back to the beginning it will close it into a solid shape. As you're clicking through your points, however, if you click and then hold down the mouse, you'll find that if you move it, you'll be able to do curves. Each curve, after you let go, follows in a tangent from the last one. So whatever I draw from here is going to smoothly come out at this angle. Just like we could see it came out of there. And back to the start. If at any stage you'd like to draw a shape that is a combination of jagged edges and smooth edges, there's a little trick to that. Say I would like all of this to be smooth so far, but instead of coming out in a curve, I'd like it to sharply come back in, like a sharp knife or tooth. Before I draw the next line, I simply click on the one I've just done. Notice the cursor changes, and it will take away that guideline. Now whatever I draw can be in a sharp line from there. Using this method, with practice you'll find you can draw almost any shape, and you'll find it very useful for doing different shapes and features in logos. Text in Illustrator is very similar to Photoshop. Once you select the tool, you can click once and it will do the text from that area. Alternatively, you can click and drag a text box and the text will stay inside that box. Some other nice options you have is if you go over a shape you've already drawn and click on that, the shape will become a very fancy outline shape for our text to fit inside. You can see here that our text is fitting inside the star. Very handy depending on what you're actually trying to do. If we have just a normal path, like this one here, clicking and adding text onto that, notice the cursor changes, means that our text will follow that line. Perfect for a lot of text in logos. To change the text, while it's selected, up the top here we have our various controls. So we have our fill color, we have our stroke color, which with text is more or less used to give an outline. We have our actual font, we have our size, and we have our alignment, left, center, or right. You might find that you would like some more control over this text. You'll notice in blue it says character and paragraph. If you click on that, you'll get another control panel that comes up. If you'd like to see a preview of the font before you select it, you need to click up on type. And then under font, it'll show you what all of the fonts look like. Clicking paragraph will also give you some more options to get your text just how you like it. One problem you might come into as you're working on your logo is that things go on top of each other and you can't see them. Even though they're on the same layer and it's easy to select objects, they might get hidden. When you have something selected, you can right click and then you'll get these options for arrange. I might want to bring this one to the front so it's over the top of the text, or alternatively I might like to send it to the back so the text is now on top of it. But you have a lot of control by doing that. One last thing, when you're designing your logo, you might have some really free-form shapes that you don't want to mark out with the pen tool. For that, we have the brush tool. When you click in paint, although it looks jagged now, as soon as you let go, it will now calculate it into a really smooth vector curve. And to make it even more useful, we have a whole bunch of different brushes that we can select from the side to give some different effects. Like always, even though it looks like pixels, like in Photoshop, no matter how far we zoom in, it will never lose quality because it's vector. After you've drawn some shapes, you might like to edit them. Say you draw a curve, but it's not quite how you like it, but it's very close. This is where we switch to the second direct selection tool, the white arrow instead of the black arrow. The black arrow is for selecting whole objects and then moving them around. The white arrow will let you edit that object. So now if I click in the corner of this, instead of moving the whole rectangle, it will allow me to edit and move just that part of it. The same goes for all of our curves. We can adjust our curves, both the center points, both the guidelines and handles, for setting up how much it curves. Even our painted on shapes, we should be able to have some control to edit. Another useful thing this tool is good at is to click and drag around a whole bunch of layers. Now any points here, here and here that have been selected can now be moved around and this side will be fixed. Very useful.